This is a short video showing how to solve the past exam question on swaps. The question is written here, and I have highlighted in red the important information in the question that will help you solve the question. You have two companies, X and Y, which have been offered the following interest rates on a 20 million of whatever currency 5-year loan, and the rates are annual. Company X requires a US dollar loan and Company Y requires a yen loan. You have first to determine which company has what kind of comparative advantage in which market. Then you have to design a swap that will give a bank, which will be the intermediary in the swap, a fee of 0.3% per year, and the swap must be equally attractive to both companies. And the question gives you the interest rates the company will pay in the yen market and the dollar market. So, first we start with a generic definition of a swap. It's a financial transaction where two firms will exchange their interest rate payments. So generically, firm A, in red, has interest payments at a yen interest rate. Firm B, in blue, has interest payments at a US interest rate, which is in blue. The third line tells you how the swap is going to work. Firm A in red will pay blue interest rate and firm B in blue will pay red interest rate. So in terms of currency, firm A will pay US interest rate and firm B will pay yen interest rate. You might be wondering now, why don't they get the interest, the loan in the currency they want? Because if firm A wants to pay interest rate, why is it going to pay yen interest rates? That's where the issue of comparative advantage comes in. In this table you see the interest rates that each company would pay if it borrowed in yen or in dollar. Company X would pay 4.8% if it borrowed in yen, but 9.8% in dollar. Company Y would pay 6.75% in yen and 10% in dollar. Now, the answer on my learning says that X has a comparative advantage in yen, and it's more or less obvious because it pays less interest rate in yen than it does in dollar. But then you see that Y has a comparative advantage in US dollar, but it's not really clear because it's paying 10% in dollar and 6.5% in yen, so you'd say it has a comparative advantage in yen. Well, in fact, when you think like that, it's because you are comparing across the rows, if you want, yeah, yen with dollar and yen with dollar. But in fact, you have to compare across the columns. That's what we see in the next slide. So what you have here is the calculation of the differentials between the rates each company pays, and that's what matters. So you can see here that Y pays 6.5% and X pays 4.8%. If you subtract, then you get 1.7%. Yeah, 6.5 minus 4.8. If you do the same in the US market, you see that the differential is much lower. So what you find is that Y pays a differential that is lower in the US market than it does in yen. This is why you say that company Y has a comparative advantage in the dollar market. And this is not because it pays a lower interest rate, it's because the differential of interest rate between this company and the other company is lower in the US market than it is in the yen market. Now, what is the role of the financial intermediary? Strictly speaking, you don't need a bank. Company X and Y could contact each other and set up a swap without the bank. But usually it doesn't happen because the swap only works if you find a counterparty that has the exact opposite needs of yours. So if you want to borrow in yen but you have dollars, you need somebody who wants to borrow in dollars but has yen. If you're borrowing in floating rate but you want fixed rate, you need somebody who's borrowing in fixed rate but wants floating rate. So it has to be the exact mirror image of you. Otherwise the swap doesn't work. So usually what companies do is that they ask a bank to find the counterparty for them, and the bank wants to be paid. So again, I have highlighted in red the important information. The bank wants to be paid a fee of 0.3% per year. So whatever gain of the swap exists, you have to remove 0.3% to give to the bank. The second important information is that the swap must be equally attractive to both companies. This is not always true. When you have companies that are unequal for whatever reason, the bigger company makes a bigger gain. So example, you have a multinational and a local firm. The multinational will usually make most of the swap. If you have a company with a higher credit rating, this one will pay less or make more gain than the one with a lower credit rating. But in this case here, both companies are equal in the sense that they will want exactly the same share of the gain. So what you need to find out now is the gain from the swap. The gain from the swap is found by calculating the difference of differentials. So to find out the comparative advantage, we have calculated two differentials between interest rates in each market. The difference between them is the gain of the swap. Yeah, so this is it, gain from the swap. After you have found the gain of the swap, you need to subtract the banker's fee. So you are left with 1.2% in terms of gain. And finally, you split the gain equally between each company because they want an equally attractive swap. So 1.2 divided by 2 is 0.6% to firm A, which is firm X, sorry, and firm Y will get 0.6% as well. So the complete answer that was given to you on My Learning is the table with this added row where you have the differentials, the explanation that given these differentials, company Y has a comparative advantage in the US dollar loan market, and company X then has a comparative advantage in the other market. The total gain is found by subtracting the two differentials, 1.7 minus 0.2. Then you subtract the bank fee and you divide the remainder between each company. That's it.